Welcome to 5 Minutes, your quick dive into the wide-ranging world of insurance, technology, and leadership. I'm Miguel Edwards, and I'll be your guide as we explore these topics that are transforming not just the insurance industry, but the business world at large. Along with sharing observations I've made over the span of my career in insurance, technology, and operations, I'll be chatting with some of the brightest minds in business and leadership. Whether you're a seasoned executive or a rising star, an industry expert, or just curious about how technology is revolutionizing insurance, this is your perfect spot for your weekly dose of insights. This is 5 Minutes. One of the things that I've been incredibly used to as a technologist is I've been used to just this very simple 2x2 grid in terms of what's the likelihood and versus, what's the impact of a particular risk, from materializing, right? So it's a high likelihood, low likelihood, high impact, low impact, whatever, which tends to put a very, very qualitative lens on risk. But when we were talking pre-show, you talked about risk quantification. Can you share a little bit about what that actually looks like in practice? Because I think we're always trying to quantify things, and risk is not something that I think that normally comes to mind initially when we try to put a number on it. So what's your philosophy on that?
So I believe that there are some risks that are very easily quantified. Mm-hmm. I think of it like a sliding scale is probably the best way to think about it. There are some risks that are so hard to quantify, but there's still a good way to make sure that everybody's on the same page around what does a high risk mean versus a low risk. And I'm going to go off onto a side tangent for a moment because it's relevant here, is that every person has a personal preference towards our risk that we take. Okay. Mm-hmm. As entrepreneurs, you and I are higher risk takers.
Sure. Your tolerance, sure.
Exactly.
Yep.
So what to us would look like a very low risk to someone who is very risk averse would look very high.
Right.
So just using the labels of high, medium, or low, very bad because definitions are different. Mm-hmm. However, if you were to put criteria of what does this look like at the company level, what does this look like? It would look like this from a operational perspective, from a technology perspective, from a regulatory perspective, financial perspective. Here's what a higher risk would look like.
Right.
Here's what a moderate risk would look like. Here's what a low risk would look like. Now, personally, I think 3 levels is also too easy, and it's too. So I like using a 5-level scale, if at all possible, if I'm using that kind of criteria. So that is one way to quantify, because when you're putting that criteria in, you're saying it means we can't operate for 2 days, which or it could impact X number of policyholders or X percentage of our policyholders. We have a turnover rate, an involuntary turnover rate of X, right? We have a financial impact of this much net income loss or net loss. You can quantify what that looks like. So that's on one end of the spectrum for being able to quantify. Then you have those where you've got hard data from it's happened in the past. We know it can happen again. We need to look at that data from the past and say, what did it look like back then? What was the environment back then? And how do we make that look like today? And you can use that data to quantify what it could look like in the future. Yeah. So again, financial risk, because insurance carriers are very comfortable there. You could say if this happened, it would reduce okay, I'm going to state that better.
Yep, go for it.
Okay. If we were to do this, it would mean our premiums are reduced by $50 million.
Sure.
Okay. That's happened in the past. It happens. We weren't able to do that, but this is how many policies we had. And this is how much our book of business looked like at that point. We've grown since then. So we can't say 50 million is the same 10 years ago as it was today.
Sure.
Now that would look like 150 million. Okay. That's good to know. So you can quantify, and you could, the other piece of that is not just saying there's a single point of expected loss. There's going to be a range of losses.
Yeah.
On the high end, it could be here. On the low end, it can be here. But the expected loss is about right here. And there's different levels of confidence of I'm really confident it's here. And as it goes out to the outer bands, I have less confidence in that actually being actually coming true.
Sure.
So that's your sliding scale of being able to quantify. Definitely possible. Reputation gets to be one of those that's very hard to quantify, but there are metrics that you can use to measure reputation, net promoter score, Google reviews, the number of complaints that are filed with the regulators. Sure. There's all different kinds of ways to measure reputation. It just has to look at it from the 360-degree view.
Thank you for joining this episode of 5 Minutes. If you've enjoyed our discussion, we'd love for you to share it with anyone else you think might find it interesting. Also, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on and hit that bell to stay on top of the game with our practical 5-minute episodes. We look forward to seeing you again next week.